And 3, 2, 1.
A bunch more bombshells breaking in the FBI texting scandal. Plus, President Trump wants a military parade, and Democrats are filibustering a government shutdown again. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Yes, many things are happening. The Democrats are claiming that the end of the republic is upon us. Why? Because President Trump wants a parade, you know, with shiny things and toys and tanks and such. It's going to be awesome. Democrats are very upset about it. However, they say it's the end of the republic. However, if we're going to talk about the end of the republic and the destruction of governmental norms, I have a few notes on that. First, I want to say thank you to our sponsors over at Upside.com. So, when you book your business travel, there is only one good way to do it. The way to book your business trip is at Upside.com. We use it here at the Daily Wire. Whenever I book through Upside.com. And when you do, you will get a better business travel experience that you deserve and a free pair of Bose SoundLink wireless headphones. First, here's why you'll love Upside.com. So first of all, Upside has concierge service. I mean, we're talking 24/7 to make sure your flight, hotel, rental car all go off without a hitch. They're available on demand by chat, phone, and email whenever you need them. Only Upside monitors your business trip around the clock. They proactively keep you posted on everything from the weather in the city you're going to changing your flight home so you can adjust your meeting schedule. You don't get this level of service with any other travel website. And right now, you can get a free pair of Bose SoundLink wireless headphones. So all you have to do is go to upside.com/Ben. That's upside.com/Ben. And when you book a trip, you get your Bose SoundLink wireless headphones. The headphones are available while supplies last. It has to be your first Upside purchase and a $600 minimum purchase required, which is basically a round-trip ticket. See the site for complete details, upside.com/Ben. That's upside.com/Ben. Again, when you use that /Ben, you know, let them know that we've sent you. And also, you get the pair of Bose SoundLink wireless headphones. So pretty good sweetener just for using a site you should already be using for travel anyway. Alrighty, so the Democrats are very, very upset. Chuck Schumer, sounding off, Senate Minority Leader, he says that our government is becoming degraded. Republicans are silent about Trump. They won't speak up about Trump, and it's degrading our republic. Our republic is just falling apart at the seams. Here is Chuck Schumer.
For partisan reasons, the president and his allies in Congress are systematically trying to weaken America's faith in the rule of law. And to a large extent, sadly, the leaders of the Republican Party have been silent. We desperately need more of our Republican friends to stand up and speak out, particularly the Republican leadership, because their silence is rapidly becoming complicity in the denigration of our republic.
So as you know from this show, one of the things I hate most in politics is the sincere voice, where everybody goes down real low, like they mean it. And that's what you get from Chuck Schumer. It's a pretty good indicator the person's lying to you when they go to sincere voice. Now, if your spouse ever was talking to you, and they said, honey, I really took out the garbage, you can be guaranteed that the garbage never was taken out. It never happened. So these politicians are lying to you, but the Democrats are saying that the Republicans are destroying governmental norms. What was the big norm that was destroyed yesterday by President Trump? The big norm that was destroyed yesterday by President Trump is that Trump says he wants a military parade. So according to CNN.com, he has asked the military for a parade, and the Pentagon is reviewing potential dates. So the White House press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she said in a statement, Trump had asked the Defense Department to explore the idea. She says President Trump is incredibly supportive of America's great service members who risk their lives every day to keep our country safe. He has asked the Department of Defense to explore a celebration at which all Americans can show their appreciation. And the Washington Post reported last month that Trump wanted a military parade. Apparently, he visited France, and he really liked the Bastille Day military parade. He said last September in a conversation with the president of France, Macron, that when he came back from France, he wanted a military parade on the 4th of July in Washington. There are a lot of people who are looking at this and saying, well, why do we need a military parade? I mean, number one, it costs a lot of money. Number two, the idea of tanks rolling down American civilian streets when we haven't just won a war, we're not actually celebrating anything, or not on Memorial Day or not on Veterans Day, is kind of weird. Like to just randomly do a military parade in the middle of Washington, D.C. so that Trump can stand there and look over the troops that he commands seems kind of not an American thing. Like the last military parade we had in the United States was 1991. That was after the Gulf War, after we won the Gulf War, and George H.W. Bush had a military parade so we could celebrate the returning service members. We had a couple back in the 1960s. We had one under JFK. There's one under FDR, which is really creepy because there's actually like a giant head of FDR, like a giant bust of FDR that was in the parade. It's all real weird. Look, is it something that I love the idea? I don't love the idea of this. I love the idea of honoring the military. That's why we have 2 days honoring both the fallen members of the military and the members who have served, right? We have Veterans Day, we have Memorial Day. And we should all take time out. and we should pay homage to the military. That's something that we should do on a regular basis. But the idea that Trump wants his military parade so he can stand there and look over it, I find kind of weird. Again, appreciation for the military is one thing. Trump wanting to imitate France because look at all the pretty jets seems to me a little bit weird as well. Is it, however, the end of the world? Is it something where you look at it and you go, this is destroying the fabric of the republic? No. No. Is it a waste of time and money? I kind of think so. Is it something where, we actually need to do it? Is it something that Trump is doing for his own personal gratification? Kinda. But is it the end of the republic as we know it? No, but it doesn't matter. The Democrats naturally are going crazy because they'll go crazy over anything. Representative Jackie Speier from California, she says that Donald Trump is clearly like Napoleon.
What's your reaction to that idea?
I was stunned by it, to be quite honest. I mean, we have a Napoleon in the making here, and I believe that we have so many issues around the world in terms of preparing for wars that are ongoing and wars that may be in the offing because of what's happening in North Korea, that I would say that it's really a waste of money. And I think everyone should be offended by his need to always be showing. He's truly Napoleon-like.
Okay, come on. Just silly talk. Okay, and then Jeff Flake gets up yesterday on the floor of the Senate. We discussed that President Trump had said the Democrats, or he joked, the Democrats were participating in treason when they didn't clap for him in the middle of the State of the Union, which, as I said, was a dumb remark. He was obviously joking. Jeff Flake, who is not running for re-election in the Senate in Arizona because he would probably lose, he has now made it his mission to go on the floor of the Senate every chance he gets and say things about Trump so that he can presumably primary him in 2020. Here is the senator from Arizona.
I wish I could stand here today and say that my words of last October have been proven wrong, that I had been unfair to inveigh against the daily sundering of our country, that I had been mistaken about the personal attacks, that I had exaggerated the threats against principles, freedoms, and institutions, the flagrant disregard for truth and decency. I have seen the president's most ardent defenders use the now weary argument that the president's comments were meant as a joke, just sarcasm, only tongue-in-cheek. But treason is not a punchline, Mr. President.
Okay, so, again, is this over the top? Yes. Is it, listen, should Trump have said any of that stuff? No, but the idea that Trump is degrading the republic beyond belief. Okay, the election of Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton was the worst choice ever. Okay, remember, all the way back, forget about what Trump has done since that I like, all of his policies. The election between Donald Trump, a guy who's manifestly character-free in many ways, and Hillary Clinton, the most corrupt politician in modern American history, that was not a good election. Okay, if we're going to talk about stuff that degrades the republic, however, stuff that has real impact on the republic, we can't start with Trump saying stuff about military parades or suggesting that Democrats were treasonous for not clapping for him. As I mentioned yesterday, Democrats said for years that you were treasonous if you did not sufficiently support Barack Obama's agenda. They said it over and over and over. They suggested the Tea Party were actual terrorists for not supporting Barack Obama's big spending agenda. All of that was stupid. None of it made any sense. But nobody said at the time that this is the death of the republic. They say it because it's Trump. And of course, Democrats are going over the top about all this stuff because this is where they think they're going to win. They think they're going to win by just crying not normal over and over and over. Joe Biden did this as well. Joe Biden comes out and he says that Trump is a joke doing everything that Vladimir Putin ever wanted.
This is the first president to make a full-throated, unvarnished attack on the entirety of the FBI. What do you think they're thinking in Moscow? This is doing everything that Putin ever wanted. I just marvel at some of the things he says and does. Like, 2 days ago, anybody didn't stand up and clap for him was un-American and then maybe even treasonous.
They say it was tongue-in-cheek. Democrats can't take a joke.
Well, let me tell you, he's a joke.
No, he's a joke. So Biden obviously wants to run in 2020 as well. Remember, Joe Biden is the guy who got up in the middle of the 2012 election cycle and said Mitt Romney wanted to put you all back in chains. Or if that's not the definition of treason, if that wouldn't be him calling Romney a traitor, I'm not sure what would be. That he wants to enslave his fellow American citizens. It's an astonishing claim. So, Democrats are claiming that Trump is destroying the republic. But who's really destroying the republic? Who is really making the institutions of the republic less than credible? Well, it really is not Trump so much. It really was the Obama administration. I have a lot to say on this particular subject. There's some breaking news I want to bring to you. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsors over at 1-800-Flowers. So, Valentine's Day is coming up. and you know you're lazy. You know that you're not going to do anything up until the day of Valentine's Day, and then you're going to rush over to the local grocery store and you're going to pick up a box of chocolates and bring it home to your wife, and she's going to look at you like, this is all you did? Well, that's why you should instead be going over to 1-800-Flowers.com right now. They always have my back in tight situations, as I mentioned when I went to the Super Bowl, and my wife was not super fond of it. That meant it was a good time for 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, you can get 18 enchanted roses for only $29.99. 18 enchanted roses for just $29.99. It's an amazing offer from 1-800-Flowers.com. It's a gorgeous bouquet featuring radiant pink and red roses, the perfect Valentine's surprise she is guaranteed to love. And she will never guess how good the deal was and that you didn't spend that much money on her. So if you're just a cheap SOB and you weren't going to spend that much money on your spouse, then you can at least get her something really nice anyway. And that's what 1-800-Flowers.com is for. They are the rose authority. To order 18 enchanted roses for just $29.99, go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click the radio icon, and use promo code Shapiro. Remember to use that promo code Shapiro so you get the special deal. Valentine's Day is almost here. You need to order today. 1-800-Flowers.com, promo code Shapiro. Again, you get 18 enchanted roses for just $29.99. 1-800-Flowers.com and use promo code Shapiro to get that done. Okay, so there is a bunch of breaking news that shows who is really endangering the institutions of the Republic. And the answer is, it was the Obama administration. I mean, there are a lot of problems that I've had with the Trump administration, but when we talk about destroying the institutions of the American Republic, there was so much going on in the last election cycle that was troublesome. And before that, for the last 8 years before that, I mean, I wrote a full book on all of the corruption inside the Obama administration called The People versus Barack Obama. It's worth reading. But in the last couple of weeks, there has been a letter from Lindsey Graham and Charles Grassley, a referral to the Department of Justice. And the referral basically says a few things. It says, according to Gabriel Mailer, as a lawyer, he says, first, that the October 2016 FISA warrant application seeking surveillance of Carter Page did disclose that the Steele dossier was compiled at the direction of a political client. It did not disclose that it was compiled at the direction of the DNC. At the time of that warrant application, the FBI thought Steele had not previously disclosed dossier information to anyone but the FBI and his client. It turns out that he instead disclosed it to the media. And so in the original application, they used both the Steele dossier and a media report based on a leak from Christopher Steele to the media. The FBI believed that that was Steele's first media disclosure, but it turns out that it was not. And so they fired him, and they did not include that in the warrant. Right? Subsequent to April 2017, they did not include in warrant renewal applications the new information that Steele had previously lied to the FBI about media disclosures prior to October 2016. The referral states, quote, instead, the post-April 2017 application still relied primarily on Steele's credibility prior to the October media incident. So we're still figuring out exactly what was going on with the Carter Page FISA application. We're still figuring out exactly what happened with the Carter Page FISA application, but there's some new information that is pretty damning as far as how the FISA application process works. The most honest take here, I think, is that the FISA application process is deeply flawed. Since the initiation of the FISA courts, which was back in, I think, 2002, 2003, since the initiation of the FISA courts, there have been a grand total of something like 21 FISA applications that have been turned down by the FISA court. So basically, the FBI brings information to the FISA court and they rubber stamp wiretaps. That's a serious problem because in this particular case, the information that the wiretap of Carter Page was based on was really sketch. Not only was it really sketchy, it may have come directly from Hillary Clinton. So we already know the Steele dossier, this dossier that was compiled at the behest of Fusion GPS, which was being paid by the DNC. That Steele dossier was used as the basis for the FISA warrant, or as the primary basis for the FISA warrant against Carter Page. We already know the DNC was paying for it, but we are now finding out that that wasn't the only way that Hillary Clinton was funneling bad information to the FBI, or may have been doing so. According to a report from Mark Hemingway over at the Weekly Standard, the FBI is now investigating a second Trump dossier. This one is complete with information allegedly compiled by a Clinton crony named Cody Shearer. Natasha Bertrand of The Atlantic says she's seen the memo and that it covers, quote, a range of allegations concerning the president's personal behavior and financial transactions. According to Bertrand, Obama's State Department special envoy to Libya, a guy named Jonathan Weiner, passed information from Shearer, who is a Hillary buddy, on to British spy Christopher Steele, who was busily compiling opposition research on Trump on behalf of the DNC and Hillary Clinton via Fusion GPS. So here's how the chain of information went. There's a Hillary crony named Cody Shearer. He was working with Sidney Blumenthal. Sidney Blumenthal is Hillary's hatchet man and one of the sleaziest liars in the history of American politics. Sidney Blumenthal and Cody Shearer were working to compile information that may or may not have been false to hand over to Christopher Steele. They didn't just hand it over directly to Christopher Steele, however. Instead, they sent it to Jonathan Weiner. Jonathan Weiner was working at the State Department, right? He was working for John Kerry at the State Department. He was a Hillary staffer who moved over to John Kerry. And so the State Department then funneled that information not to the FBI, but to Christopher Steele, who included it in the Fusion GPS dossier, which eventually was forwarded to the FBI. So it looks like the State Department being militarized on behalf of Hillary Clinton to funnel information to Christopher Steele, who would then send it to the FBI, which would then look to target the Trump campaign, right? That's what this chain of information looks like. That's really, really dirty stuff. Right? Hemingway rightly sums up, if the Guardian report is accurate, the FBI had better have a very good answer for why it's looking at information compiled by the likes of Cody Shearer. And if Steele otherwise incorporated Shearer's information into his own dossier, it raises even more serious questions about what the FBI knew about the reliability and provenance of Steele's information, which all makes the Page FISA request look shoddier and shoddier. If the FBI knew that Steele's information came from Hillary's buddy and was funneled through the State Department, that's damning stuff. It looks like the militarization of the State Department and then perhaps of the FBI on behalf of the Hillary Clinton campaign. Now, that would not be a supreme shock if the FBI was biased on behalf of the Hillary Clinton campaign. Late on Tuesday evening, Fox News released a new shocking report on texts between FBI agents and lovers Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Both of them, you'll recall, were fired from the Mueller investigation for bias against President Trump. So according to Fox News, Page, this is Lisa Page in relation to Carter, texted her lover Peter Strzok on September 2nd, 2016, with the news that FBI Director James Comey wanted them to prepare an update on ongoing investigations because, quote, POTUS wants to know everything we're doing, which sounds like Obama wanted to be updated on a routine basis on the Hillary Clinton investigation. Fox News says that this is about the Hillary investigation, not about Trump-Russia collusion. Now, what makes this weird is that Obama had said back in April of 2016 that he did not interfere in FBI investigations, that he didn't want to know what was going on in FBI investigations. This is clip 16. Here is Obama saying that he would never get involved in investigations directly.
Previous presidents.
Just to button this up.
I guarantee it. I guarantee that there is no political influence in any investigation conducted by the Justice Department or the FBI, not just in this case, but in any case.
And she will be
full stop, period.
And she will be treated no differently?
Guaranteed, full stop. Nobody gets treated differently when it comes to the Justice Department because nobody is above the law.
Even if she ends up as the Democratic nominee?
How many times do I have to say it, Chris? Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. But here he is saying, I want updates. Now, listen, he's the president of the United States. He can have updates on any case that he wants. Obviously, Trump has the same power. But the idea that Obama said that he was not going to get involved in any of these investigations, and then suddenly Obama was going on national TV and saying that he didn't know Hillary had a secret email server and he found out about it on the news, even though he was obviously emailing with her at her private email address. The fact that the FBI and the DOJ deliberately overlooked that, the fact that the FBI and the DOJ were coordinating on the Hillary email campaign, the fact that they were texting, I mean, those texts show that they wanted to go easy on Hillary because they thought that she might be the next president of the United States. All of this makes the FBI and the DOJ look incredibly dirty. Makes it all look really dirty. Molly Hemingway has a piece over at the Federalist talking about that Grassley-Lindsey Graham memo that has now been sent over to the DOJ. And again, according to that letter, it says, it appears the FBI relied on admittedly uncorroborated information funded by and obtained for Secretary Clinton's presidential campaign in order to conduct surveillance of an associate of the opposing presidential candidate. It did so based on Mr. Steele's personal credibility and presumably having faith in his process of obtaining the information, but there is substantial evidence suggesting that Mr. Steele materially misled the FBI about a key aspect of his dossier efforts, one which bears on his credibility. So all of this is pretty damning. All of it suggests that there's some dirtiness happening here, and all of it needs to be reviewed. I mean, here's what we really need at this point. If we want to actually figure out what's happening here, first we need the FISA application, okay? Trump needs to declassify the FISA warrant application on Carter Page, because all we've been hearing from the Democrats is that Republicans are leaving out key components. All we've heard from Republicans is that the FISA application shows that there was some sort of collusion going on between the FBI and the Hillary Clinton campaign. We're not going to know the answer to any of that until that actual FISA application is released. Now, what this seems to me is that there's two possible theories. One is that the Trump campaign was being targeted by the FBI on behalf of Hillary Clinton. The other is that the FISA applications that are sought by the FBI are really shoddy on a regular basis. Right? If it's the latter, then we have a very deep systemic problem with the process. If it's the former, then we have a very deep systemic problem with the quote-unquote deep state and the FBI. I always tend to attribute, this sort of stuff to stupidity and incompetence rather than malice. But I can't take malice off the table because I just don't know at this point. Right? Trey Gowdy was already on TV last night, essentially hinting that it was the Hillary Clinton campaign sending information to the State Department, forwarded on to Steele, which is forwarded on to the FBI, in a pipeline of information. Here is the representative from South Carolina.
So weeks before the election, somebody in the Obama State Department was feeding information from a foreign source to Christopher Steele.
When you hear who the source, one of the sources of that information is, you're going to think, oh my gosh, I've heard that name somewhere before. Where could it possibly have been? And
the foreign source?
The domestic source. And I'm trying to think how Secretary Clinton defined him. I think she said he was an old friend who emailed her from time to time.
Sidney Blumenthal?
That'd be really warm. You're warm. Yeah.
So it is Sidney Blumenthal, apparently, according to Trey Gowdy, all of which should be deeply troubling to anyone of decent mind. Meanwhile, I mean, if you want to know, who's destroying the institutions in the United States, it doesn't help when Trump attacks institutions wrongly. I've attacked him when I thought that he was doing so. But it was the Obama administration that was compromising the integrity of these institutions. And it was these institutions who are apparently compromising their own integrity with either bad intel they were funneling to the FISA courts or FISA courts who aren't willing to do the work necessary to suss out whether an American citizen ought to have a warrant put on him despite lack of evidence, all of which is deeply troubling. Right? Again, the Democrats are willing to believe pretty much anything. Adam Schiff, the Democrat, he essentially said yesterday that he was caught on tape being pranked by radio hosts who claimed they had naked pictures of Trump. That just shows how willing the Democrats are to believe anything about President Trump.
Okay, and so Buzova met with Trump in New York at some point after the 2013 Miss Universe.
Yes, absolutely. And she got compromising materials on Trump after their short relations.
Okay. And what's the nature of the compromise?
Well, there were pictures of naked Trump.
Okay. And so Putin was made aware of the availability of the compromising material?
Yes, of course. Buzova shared those materials with Sobchak, and Sobchak shares those materials with Putin because she's a goddaughter of
Good
Putin.
stuff there.
And
obviously, Adam Schiff getting pranked by a couple of Russians who are calling him up and saying that he is that he is apparently going to be given pictures of naked Trump. Whatever gets your rocks off, apparently. So, in a second, we are going to discuss the latest episode in government shutdown, because I guess we're going to have to do this every couple of weeks here. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsors over at Blue Apron. So Blue Apron is the leading meal delivery kit service in the United States. And a lot of people may know what they do, but they don't know how good the recipes are. Okay, we're talking about seared steaks and thyme pan sauce with mashed potatoes, green beans, and crispy shallots in under 45 minutes. Short rib burgers with a hoppy cheddar sauce on a pretzel bun, right? This is gourmet stuff. You're making it in your own kitchen. It's the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. Okay, again, they're making incredible home cooking accessible to everyone. A lot of people in the office use Blue Apron. They have a 2-person meal plan, which meals that serve a couple of people. You choose from 8 new recipes per week with the choice to receive either 2 or 3 recipes in any given week. A family meal plan, meals that serve 4 people. Again, you choose from 4 new recipes per week with the choice to receive either 2, 3, or 4 recipes any week. They even have a wine plan, 6 bottles of wine from renowned winemakers delivered on a monthly basis. It's convenient. There's a lot of variety. There's a lot of flexibility. They offer 12 new recipes each week, depending on which program you have chosen, and they are high quality. They send only the best ingredients. And the Blue Apron is treating my listeners right now to $30 off our first order if you visit blueapron.com/Shapiro. Again, that's blueapron.com/Shapiro. You get $30 off your first order. And I mean, these things sound amazing. They sound amazing. Strip steaks with potatoes and spicy maple collard greens. I mean, come on. This is good stuff, and you're going to be making it in the convenience and privacy of your own home with your family. I love cooking with my daughter at home. You'll love cooking with your own children as well. Blueapron.com/Shapiro. You get $30 off your first order when you visit blueapron.com/Shapiro. Okay, so with all of that said about the compromising information regarding the Carter Page FISA warrant, we need to see the actual FISA application. And if we don't see the actual FISA application, it's just going to turn into everybody accusing everybody else of treason all the time. And that is not going to be beneficial for the Republic in any way, shape, or form. Meanwhile, in another development that is certainly not going to help the tenor of political conversation in the country, we're now on the verge of another government shutdown. So this is exactly the same as the last government shutdown, as I predicted, right here on this program. No deal has been made on DACA, nor will any deal be made on DACA. Remember, we have until, I believe, next week for them to reach some sort of continuing resolution, or I guess tomorrow, for them to come up with any continuing resolution to continue to fund the government. Republicans, of course, are fine with continuing resolutions funding the government. I've spoken with a sitting United States Senator, a Republican, who's livid over this. He says, why is it that Republicans can never just go through regular order? Regular order is the process whereby each department of the government is funded individually. You don't have omnibus projects that are budget packages that are all wrapped up together. Instead, you have each provision being debated openly and freely on the floor of the Senate. That has not happened. Instead, there's a continuing resolution to continue funding the government at current levels. Essentially, as the senator put it to me, this is a pilotless plane. It's a ghost plane. It's essentially the American budget is now a ghost plane. Nobody has control over it. It just keeps flying because nobody is willing to actually sit down and hammer out a budget. If they do hammer out a budget, it only grows in size and scope. Right now, the debate over the continuing resolution is whether or not the Democrats will allow the government to continue to be funded if no DACA deal is cut or no promise of a DACA deal is made. Now, the Trump administration has already offered a deal. That deal is extraordinarily generous. That deal includes the legalization of 1.8 million illegal immigrants and a pathway to citizenship for 1.8 million illegal immigrants. It also includes the possibility of the importation of another 4 million legal immigrants into the United States, right, through chain migration, which would come to an end, but only gradually over the course of the next 20 years. Right? All of that, the Democrats have decided, is of no merit. Instead, they just want a full-on DACA right now. They want a full amnesty. They don't want to spend any money on the border wall. They don't want to spend any money on border security. It's really absurd. And so Trump is responding how you would expect Trump to respond, by saying, listen, you want to shut this down over immigration again? Fine, shut it down over immigration again. You did it like 2 weeks ago, and it was a complete fail on your part.
If we don't change it, let's have a shutdown. We'll do a shutdown, and it's worth it for our country. I'd love to see a shutdown if we don't get this stuff taken care of. So we have to strengthen our borders, not by a little bit, but by a lot. We are so far behind the time. And by the way, the world is laughing at us because they can't believe these policies. They don't have it. I could name 15 of them right now. No other country in the world has what we have. And we're going to get it stopped. And if we have to shut it down because the Democrats don't want safety, and unrelated but still related, they don't want to take care of our military, then shut it down.
Okay,
we'll go with another shutdown.
Right, now Trump continuing to say shut it down, shut it down, shut it down is not good politics. He should be blaming Democrats for the shutdown, saying, listen, I want the budget, you want the budget, everybody wants the budget. They won't give it to us because of DACA. That would be the smarter way to do this. But what he's saying is essentially correct, that if the Democrats decide to shut this thing down over immigration, again, I don't understand how this is any different than it's been since we did this like 2 weeks ago. Remember, we did this 2.5 weeks ago. And at the time, Chuck Schumer argued that we should shut down the government over DACA. It failed. The shutdown started Friday. It ended Monday. And he got essentially nothing for his trouble other than some bad poll numbers. So Trump is exactly right here to hold the Democrats' feet to the fire. And John Kelly, who is very, very hawkish on immigration, Trump's chief of staff, he spoke to the media yesterday. He said, listen, we've offered a lot more than other people have offered. He makes a comment in here that Democrats are seizing on and trying to claim is racist, of course, because that's the way this works.
The president sent over what amounts to be 2.5 times that number to 1.8 million. The difference between 690 and 1.8 million were the people that some would say were too afraid to sign up, others would say were too lazy to get off their, but they didn't sign up. So the president shockingly said, okay, 1.8 million, and then probably the biggest shock was in a path to citizenship. That's beyond what anyone could have imagined, whether you're on the right or the left.
So people on the left went crazy over this. How could John Kelly suggest that some people were too lazy to sign up for DACA? Okay, maybe some of them were lazy, maybe some of them were not. That's not the main point here. Right? The fact is that a lot of people didn't sign up for DACA specifically because they were concerned that if they signed up and then Trump revoked DACA, they would now be on the government's radar. So I don't think that's quite fair of the White House chief of staff. That said, this is not a winning issue for Democrats. It doesn't matter. They are beholden to their radical Democratic base. And that's the one thing that Trump always can count on here, is that no matter what crazy stuff Trump does, the Democrats will do something even crazier. So Nancy Pelosi has decided to get up and filibuster. She may still be filibustering this DACA. They're calling it a DACA buster because it's not technically a filibuster in the House. She says she's going to get up there and she's going to talk and talk and talk and talk. As of this speaking, she's still talking. I believe she's 9 hours in at this point. And she's still jabbering on about why it is that we can't pass a budget, why we can't fund the government, because we need to instead cut a deal legalizing all illegal immigrants, not just in exchange for border security, but just plainly. So here's Nancy Pelosi starting to jabber about this today.
The Republican moral cowardice must end. Members of Congress are trustees of the people and of our nation. Why are we here if not to protect the patriotic young people who are determined to contribute and to strengthen America? So I'm going to go on as long as my leadership minute allows. I want to speak to the Bible in Luke 10:25-37, the parable of the Good Samaritan.
And there's nothing I like better than when Nancy Pelosi, an abortion fanatic, quotes the Bible. It's one of my favorite things. She should definitely quote the parts of the Bible talking about God knowing you before you were born. She should definitely quote the parts of the Bible talking about the value of life. She should definitely talk about the parts of the Bible talking about same-sex marriage. She should talk about all the parts of the Bible that are a little less convenient for her than these broad-based notions that we have to take in every immigrant on earth, which of course is not true and is not necessarily mandated by the Bible. The Bible is full of walls, right? The Bible is full of injunctions about who can marry whom and which people are allowed to intermingle with which other people. The idea that the Bible is an open borders document is relatively belied by the text of the Bible itself. So, no. And by the way, that's not a suggestion that the Bible itself is against intermarriage with regard to race, for example. That's a suggestion that the Bible is very much in favor of boundaries that establish the sanctity of certain practices and the sanctity of certain populations, right? I mean, obviously, the Bible is all about the sanctity of the Jewish people, at least in the Old Testament, and it says that they are people to be kept separate in certain ways. So the Bible is not all about the idea of full-on everybody gets to come in and every person is of the same mindset. That's just silliness. All of this is to say that Nancy Pelosi is now willing to shut down the government again over DACA. The Democrats are willing to shut down the government again over DACA. This is a big mistake by them. It is a huge mistake by them. And in 1 second, I'm going to explain why it's a big mistake by them. But first, you're going to have to go over to dailywire.com right now and subscribe. So for $9.99 a month, you can get a subscription to dailywire.com. When you do, you get the rest of this show live. You get the rest of the Michael Knowles show live. You get the rest of the Andrew Klavan show live. And in doing so, you will also be able to be part of our mailbag, which is coming up in just a couple of days. For our annual subscription, for $99 a year, you can get this, the very finest in all beverage vessels, Leftist Tears hot or cold tumbler. And when you get that tumbler, you will just experience the glory of conservative feeling and thought flowing through your veins, down your gullet, into your stomach. It's incredible. So get that annual subscription now, or go later, listen to the podcast over at SoundCloud, iTunes. Please subscribe over at YouTube and leave us a review. We always appreciate it. We are the largest, fastest growing conservative podcast in the nation.